Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο διαγρατός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
The verse says, fight against the people of the book until they believe what you believe. That's the first aspect of religious persecution. The second aspect is fight them until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. Right, go on, what's your reply? What's your name?
I can't share that. It's secret.
Okay, fair enough.
His name is Dave. Let's go, Dave.
Dawood.
No. Anyway, you said 929, right?
Yeah.
929, religious persecution.
Yes.
I don't think you look at context. Because in 913,
Yep.
it says, would you not fight a people who broke their oaths and determined to expel the messenger, and they had begun their attack upon you the first time?
Their attack upon you.
Yeah.
So clearly,
That's self-defense.
not
Right, hold on one second.
It's not.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. The group that it's talking about was the Jews in the Khyber, was it not?
And Christian.
No, there were no Christians in the Khyber.
No, not just
it doesn't say that.
No, this is what your hadiths and your commentaries upon that
Well,
surah
this is the
say.
Quran, so let's
Yeah.
stick to the Quran.
Right,
Yeah.
let's stick to the Quran.
Yeah, and as you can see, if you go back to 913, you can clearly find the context.
Right. Right. Let me give you, because he's saying that I am lying about the text.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you've ignored the context.
Dawood, listen. Listen.
name is not
It's
Dawood.
anonymous. It's
Right.
Anonymous.
Dawood, listen. Now, Dawood, listen. Yassine, listen. I'm going to read to you the commentary of Ibn Kathir. Do you know who Ibn Kathir is? You do. Who's Ibn? Tell your brothers. Who's Ibn Kathir? No, it's not a hadith. Right. So let me. Wait. 1 second. 1 second, Dawood. Dawood. 1 second, Dawood. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to quote Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir is a Muslim classical commentator who is revered by Muslims, used by Muslims. This is what Ibn Kathir says about 929. Therefore, Allah has instructed the Muslims to fight. Everybody say fight. To fight the people and encourage them to do so, because they call the people to the religion they follow and cause a great deal of harm to people, as people may be deceived by them because of their being people of the book. In other words, Ibn Kathir is saying that because I am a Christian and I invite everyone to become a Christian, I may deceive people. And so Ibn Kathir is saying that Allah encourages these three to fight me so that I don't deceive any of you. Now let me ask you this question. Do you know better than Ibn Kathir?
No, probably not. But why did some Christians live with Muslims? Why were some Christians allowed to live with Muslims in certain societies?
Great. Let me address that question. Fair question. His argument is, he's asked a question. Well, he wants me to ignore your question, should I? He wants to, there you go. So he's telling you he wants me to answer his question. There you go. You need to pay attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to listen better. So, I'm going to answer that question. So, ladies and gentlemen, why did some Christians end up living with Muslims? Because Muslims invaded their lands and they didn't feel, I'm going to answer that, and they didn't feel that they wanted to leave, ladies and gentlemen. But that brings me on to the second aspect of 929 and about why this verse teaches religious persecution. Because the verse says that you must fight them until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. Or, as some translators have it, feel themselves humiliated. In other words, the jizya tax is connected to the subjugation of Christians, that they become second-class citizens in an Islamic state.
Some of them stayed for hundreds of years documented.
As oppressed people.
Yeah, but why?
Because it was their land and they didn't want to leave. I literally have answered your question. Now he doesn't believe me, so I invite him to come with me. I invite you to come with me to a Coptic church. Let's ask the Coptic Christians of Egypt whether they felt oppressed under Muslim rule. Let's go together to a Syrian church and ask the Syrian Christians whether they felt oppressed under Islamic rule, because they did. Let's ask the Chaldean Christians of Syria and ask to see if they felt oppressed under Islamic rule. Because the thing is, he says they don't. But I've spoken to the indigenous people and they are telling me that they are, ladies and gentlemen. So how would you like to reply to that?
Islam didn't work in Arabic
My reply is that
Okay, your reply.
I've told you, right? I've given you the context. I don't know why you ignore it. You ignore the context.
Right.
Take it in holistically, right? Compare the two quotes. What did they show you? Read 913.
Right.
Read 913.
Let's no. Two things. One.
No, you have to read 913.
No, we are.
You go back to 929 over and over again.
Right.
To
So
understand the
I'm going
chapter,
to give
the
you
entire chapter,
not
one verse.
I am going to give you the context to 913. It is that the Jews had made an oath not to have war against the Muslims. They apparently, according to the Muslims, broke that oath.
Which Muslims?
The Muslims that were following Muhammad at the time of Muhammad. Yes. And then Muhammad started fighting them.
All these Christians.
Didn't he?
Every single Christian.
Right? Didn't he?
All civilization.
Right? Now you're listening, Dawood.
No, I wasn't following.
Right?
Explain that again.
So I'll say it again, the context, because you really need to pay attention.
Some people became
Right? The context is that the Jews broke their oath to Muhammad and started fighting against Muhammad when he was fighting against the pagans in Mecca. And then Muhammad receives this verse justifying his fight against the Jews. Okay? But what, so that's the context of your context. But the verse isn't read just to speak about those Jews at that time. Because what it says, it doesn't say fight those who break their oath. Listen, it says fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day. So what are you as a Muslim instructed to do by 9:29? What are you instructed to do?
But look, so are you telling me, right? So you have two interpretations here,
Yeah.
two choices. One is that in the context of history, right?
Yeah.
It meant to fight the people who broke their oaths. Or two, it quite literally means international non-stop jihad. You don't see me fighting you here. So I don't
can't.
think it's the second one.
You can't because you don't have the power to.
Don't worry.
Right. So you say it's a dispute between me and you. No, it's a dispute between you and classical Islamic commentators. Let me give you the tasfir of Al-Sadi. Al-Sadi says, this verse says, the point of this fighting is so non-Muslims then turn over their wealth that is given in return for Muslims not fighting them and allowing them to stay amongst the Muslims, granting them safety for their lives and property. Sayyid ibn Musayyab, As-Suyuti, Zamakhshari, Ibn Kathir all agree with that point. Classical Islamic commentators are the ones arguing with you, not me.
No, you are.
Well, I'm quoting your classical
They're
commentators.
quoting one quote here.
Do you know
I'm
Al-Sadi?
also showing you the second quote.
Do you know Al-Sadi?
This is the thing I'm doing that you're not doing.
Do you know Al-Sadi?
You've talked.
Go on.
You've done this thing where you've gone to one quote, right? You've gone to one quote and looked at one quote, not at the context. I've looked at both.
Yeah.
I've looked at both 913 and 929. I've heard the same 929 argument over and over again.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard to understand like that? If in context, if in 913, if this chapter says, like, you know, to fight the Jews if they've broken the oath, right?
Yep.
How can you then like take that one quote, right, which clearly, like, you know, suggests fighting in a much more self-defense side, you know? How can you suggest that? Then, like, you know, indicates that Muslims have to show religious persecution to all other religions.
Right. When you're ready.
You can't take that extension. It's a ridiculous
Right.
extension.
No. So here's the problem, Dawood. Right? Yeah. Here's the problem. Don't worry, I got stuck with Bob because somebody else called me Bob, so, you know, don't take it personally, right? But you can be called Bob if you want, right? But hey, Dawood, the problem is, right, you're offering up your tafsir on 9:29 by saying it needs to be read in context of 9:13. I am offering to you the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, the tafsir of Al-Sadi, the tafsir of Sayyid ibn Musayyib, the tafsir of As-Sayuti, the tafsir of Samakshari, the tafsir, as I said, of Ibn Kathir. And now I'm going to give you another one, the tafsir of Qubti. Right, listen what he says. These verses are given as a general statement. Did you hear that? As a general statement, and the order to fight the people of the earlier revelations until they pay the jizya, until they pay the submission tax with a willing hand and are subject and are subdued, is also of general import. In other words, all of the great Muslim scholars that you now want to chuck under the bus are all telling you you're wrong. They're all telling you that this is a general teaching that calls you to fight the Christian because the Christian is not a Muslim. Right? Now, the point is, you are entitled to chuck them under the bus. And if you're willing to say that they are all wrong, then I will engage with your argument. But unless you are willing to say on camera that Samakshari was wrong, that Ibn Kathir was wrong, that Musayyabi was wrong, that Suyuti was wrong, that Ibn Kathir was wrong, that Qubti was wrong, unless you are willing to say that they are all wrong, then I think I'm on good grounds by believing their tasfir over your tasfir.
I'm not saying they're wrong at all.
Thank you.
I'm not saying they're wrong. But I'm saying you've gone to one verse again. It's the one verse thing. Look, if you can bring up the tasfir of 9:13 then. Bring up the tasfir of all of those, you know, all of those interpreters, right, on 9:13. Bring that up. What would that suggest? Bring up tasfir on the entire...
Well, you do it. You're the one making the argument.
Well, no, you've boasted about your amazing lists of many Muslim theologians
Who have quoted 929 and given their understanding of it. Brilliant, thank you.
9:13 as well.
But do you disagree with them? Do you disagree with them?
No, because I'm saying...
There you go.
I'm saying you should go to 9:13.
So let's be clear, you're saying, Dawood, you're saying you don't agree with Qubti, who says that this is a command of general import.
Look, I'm saying that if you go to one verse, again, the one verse, my favorite thing on earth, look, one verse.
Well practiced by the Dawagandists.
What?
Carry on.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, look, you go to one verse, one chapter. You can't then make that as like a complete instruction to every Muslim everywhere. It can't be that. Because if that was the case, what would the same theologian have to say about the earlier verses? Which clearly don't suggest that.
Right, so Dawood, in reply to your comment, I have never said that every single Muslim should do this at every point in their
I'm not
life.
saying you should
Right.
do it, but you're saying they
But
suggest
what I want to point out now is your duplicitousness. So it's when you make a two-faced argument.
I know, but like,
Right? I want to ask you very clearly, right? Qubti, in his tasfir of 929, says this: these verses are given as a general statement, and the order to fight the people of earlier revelations until they pay the submission tax with a willing hand and are subdued is also of general import. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
agree, and because if you look at
You agree.
Look at this. No,
Thank
wait,
you.
wait, look at the statement. Look at the statement. Earlier revelation. What's the earlier revelation? 9:13. Clearly.
No,
It's
the earlier
referring-
revelation, the people of the earlier revelation, listen carefully.
Where's
It
the
says, fight the people of the earlier revelation.
The people
Who's
of the
that?
earlier revelation.
Who's the
You
people?
said
The Alim al-Kitab.
You said the earlier revelation. You said from
I'll hold
9:13.
my Quran.
Sure. You're in the verse 9:13. You said it was the Jews who broke their oath. to the
Yes.
Prophet. Yeah. How is that not the people of the earlier revelation?
You're not listening to Qubti, are you? Qubti says, and you've already admitted that you agree with it, so you've kind of exposed yourself. Listen, Dawood. Listen, it says is of general import. Do you know what that means? Of general import. What does that mean? Yeah, when something is of general import,
General instruction.
yeah, it's a general instruction manual that's applicable to all applicable on a continuous basis, isn't it? Thank you. So, Qubti, who you agree with, says that this passage about fighting the people of earlier scriptures is a general instruction to Muslims today.
But clearly, look, if you like take your magnifying glass and zoom it onto Qubti's quote on this, right? And if you ignore what Qubti may have
Well, you
said,
pull up quote for 913 from Qubti because that's your argument.
look,
It's not my job to help your argument. You do it.
You're like the expert with all these like theologians.
Why are you frightened to pull up his Tasfir? Pull up his Tasfir, see what he says. Why not? Can't you just pull up Tasfir of Quran?
Which one? How
Let's see if we can do it. Let's see I'm gonna prove you wrong that you can do it in 3 minutes. Well, maybe not 3 minutes. We're gonna pull up the Tasfir for 913, and let's see if people and bearing in mind you're sunk now, right? Because you've agreed with Qubti. You've agreed. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you: do you agree with Sadi, who says the point of this fighting is so non-Muslims then turn over their wealth that is given in return for Muslims, not fighting them and allowing them to stay amongst the Muslims, granting them safety for their lives and property? Do you agree with Al-Sadi that that is what the verse means?
I don't actually think it is.
What?
I don't think it is what it means. This specific one there, this guy.
So you disagree with Al-Sadi?
Where's the mention of like money and stuff
You disagree with Al-Sadi?
on this quote? I think
It says it money. It's the money is the reference. Where's the money in 929? It's reference to the jizya. What's the jizya?
tax,
What's the tax connected to? Money.
the government.
So it's connected to money. So there you go. So it is connected to money. Yeah? The problem is, Dawood, is that you want to make Islam into something that it's not. And I think that that is a good thing, because I think that you're better than your book. If you don't want to fight unbelievers because they're just Christians and Jews, then you're a better person than your book allows you to be. And that's a good thing. But now it's unfortunate that Yassine checked out of this debate.
But I actually didn't come here to discuss this. I watched one of your earlier videos about slavery, right?
Right?
And I was itching to respond. You claimed that Muslims...
So you want to close down this conversation?
Because I...
Hold on 1 second. I'm not saying I agree to close down this conversation. I just want to check that you want to close down this conversation.
Because I came in to discuss something else.
Yeah? Yeah, you burst into this conversation that he was having. So I want to point out in Sahih al-Muslim, Muhammad says, and I want to ask you if you agree with this or not. Right? In book.
If I answer this right, can we move on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll have a final comment, but then this is in Sahih Muslim. It says this: Muhammad speaking, "I have been commanded to fight against the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and they establish prayer and pay zakat, and if they do it, their blood and property are guaranteed protection on my behalf, except when justified by law, and their affairs rest with Allah." Is Muhammad an example to you in that statement?
Where was this cited?
In Sahih al-Muslim, Hadith 36 and Hadith 33. I'll read it again. This is Muhammad. He is saying, "I have been commanded to fight against the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and they establish prayer and pay zakat, and if they do it, their blood and property are guaranteed protection on my behalf, except when justified by law, and their affairs rest with Allah." My question to you again is Muhammad an example to you in that statement?
If I was living in
7th century.
7th century Arabia,
So you're saying that he's not an example for you today?
yeah, because I'm not going to fight.
Great, you're better than Muhammad. Well done.
Okay, moving on. Because I want
Is that protection of rights? Is he talking about protection of rights?
You let him burst in. So no, the Muhammad is saying you burst into his conversation. He can burst back in.
You want me?
Right.
I can go. If you
Yeah. Dawood. Yasin.
Dawood.
Yeah. Well, you called him Dawood, not me. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yasin.
Yeah.
Right? I've demonstrated that your book legitimizes religious persecution. Will you now condemn it?
Not to me.
And why not, Yasin? Because you stopped talking and you walked off.
I was talking to the people
Yeah,
that were
because
supporting
you. No. What? Sorry?
I was talking to the people that were supporting you.
No, because you entered into a conversation. You asked me to prove something, and then when I was demonstrating the proof, you walked away.
Sorry, can you demonstrate it again?
Thank you. So let's do it again. So, in
verse 29, verse 1, I remember.
9:29.
Right. But
Right.
I showed you verse 13 of
Yeah, we've gone through that. You should have been here. So now my question is this: if the British government was to impose upon the Muslims a differentiated tax on account of them being Muslims that could be higher than taxes given to Christians, would you call that a discriminatory tax?
That's the only condition, just because we're different.
And if you don't pay it, we're going to take your children, we're going to take your wives, we're going to take your property.
Show me that.
Okay, so are you...
Show me that. Take the children, wives, property. Show me.
So what is the jizya tax?
The jizya tax, regardless of what it is, you only pay it as a Christian or Jew. Then you don't have to fight for the country. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. The other rights that everyone has to be abiding by, you don't do.
And what happens if you don't pay it?
Right now, who even pays jizya tax?
What happens if you don't pay
I
it?
don't know.
Yeah, good.
doesn't even talk about it.
Because the world has become a better place because we have abolished the jizya tax.
No.
And the world is better
I
without
don't know
it.
even if the opposite.
The world is a better place without the jizya tax. Do you know what the Pact of Umar is?
Pact of Umar.
Yeah, the Pact of Umar. Yeah? The Pact of Umar. It is an early forgery within Islam that was accredited to when Umar took over Christian lands.
What did he forge?
Well, we don't know who forged it. I think most hadiths are forged. But in the Pact of Umar, it restricts the restoration of places of worship. It says that Christians can't ride on saddles. It says that Christians couldn't have hanging swords on their shoulders.
So what do I search up to confirm this?
Yeah, you go and look up the Pact of Umar. Yeah, the Pact of Umar. Now, also, while you're doing it, it'd be much more helpful for you to look at what the jizya tax is, because the jizya tax is clearly referenced in the Quran. The jizya tax is protection money. If we don't pay the jizya tax, our lives, our property, and the lives of our children and wives become forfeit. Did you know that? Well, I'm educating you about your deen now. Yeah, please do. I'll wait for you to confirm.
The Pact of Umar is a treaty that established the rights and obligations of non-Muslims.
Correct.
Why would you want to even have rights and obligations for non-Muslims if you're going to subjugate them anyway?
Because you can subjugate people through rights, even Jews in the Third Reich.
Why would you? You have the sword and you have control over their land.
Because
Why even give them rights?
different people practice injustice in different ways. Let me give you an example. Hitler, when he oppressed the Jews,
He didn't give them any rights.
he did give them rights.
Like what?
Yes, they could live in the ghetto. They were allowed to trade a certain amount. They were allowed to do certain kinds of work.
Before you
They
send
were
them to
allowed
the
to
camps?
marry one another. So the point is, they were allowed rights.
And then he took them away and sent them to the camp.
Yes, indeed.
Well, Islam never did that, so it's a bad example.
No, it's a. But
similarity.
no. Yasin, I'm sorry you can't follow an argument, but let's be clear. The Pact of Umar does this. It restricts the rights of Christians and turns them into second-class citizens.